Hi everyone, welcome to our snow day work. I'm sorry that it's taken me so long to get this video to you, but I hope this will clarify what I'm asking you to do for blog number 5, which is due next Monday night. Looks like there's a good chance we're going to have another snow day tomorrow. Hopefully you can use that time wisely to get some of this work done. So for this session, I'm going to hopefully help you find this case study that I think might provide some examples of what I'm asking you to do for this particular assignment, which is creating assessments using the UDL principles. I will walk you through the process of finding a standard around which you're going to create these assessment ideas. And then finally, I will show you a few of the different tools that you can use to actually showcase what you've done. So the very first thing that I want to point out is that you will need for this assignment to find a Maryland Common Core standard with which to work. As I said in the initial email, either you or your lesson plan or your lesson plan partners can select one, or you can find one on your own. And then whatever standard you use for this particular assignment does not need to be the same standard you stick with for your final plan. So I'm just reading this again. Either you and your lesson plan partners can select one together, right? Or you can find one on your own. And again, in past semesters, this assignment has been linked directly to your final lesson plan idea, but because of weather and whatnot, it's okay if it doesn't. This is just giving you practice to build assessments using UDL principles. So let me first explain to you what I'm asking you to do. And you kind of have two different ways to think about this. The first is that you are going to find a standard with which to work. As a reminder, you can go to Maryland MDK12.org instruction, and you can find the Common Core standards for the state of Maryland. What you could then do is if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that these are all the content standards that are applicable. And you can pick whichever one is most relevant to your work. For example, if you are a social studies person, you can look at social studies. You can decide that you want to teach 8th grade, and you can look here and find one of these indicators or standards or objectives to work with. This up here is the standard, and I think this is probably the easiest because it's the most broadest to work with. But if you really prefer to use something in the indicator or topic area, that's okay too. The idea is that I want you to become familiar with this language, and of course I want you to be thinking about UDL as you build assessments to see whether or not students can actually meet those standards. So the first thing that you're going to do again is go to our Maryland site, look for a particular area and a particular grade that works with you. Keep in mind that for all the grades, only English and math are really well developed. But here you can see that if you are in any of those other areas, you can use standards from this area. The next thing that I'd like for you to do is, and this link should be provided in, I guess I'll send it back out in a new email for you. This is a case study in which Mrs. Donaldson is talked about and the ways in which she uses UDL to build her assessments. I thought this could be a good reminder and a good supplement to Chapter 7, which is really what, where you could have gotten most of the information to help you. So this should be a reminder. So then the next thing that you want to look at, if you don't remember, is if you click on or if you Google UDL Educators Checklist. And you should really have this easily available. This will help you further your understanding and keep reminding you of what the UDL principles are and what they look like in practice. So for example, when you're talking about building an assessment and providing multiple means of engagement, or I'm sorry, multiple means of representation, you probably will want to talk about the idea that in your assessment you will be doing some of these things. You might also talk about using alternatives for visual information. And typically, for some reason these aren't working. but normally you can click on these and they'll bring you to additional information, but mine has stopped working. But the UDL Educators Checklist will be a nice tool that you should become familiar with. So for example, when you have to design an assessment that provides multiple means of engagement, perhaps you will talk about the fact that your assessment was a choice, or that you've given students various choices as an assessment, which of course would be part of that multiple means of engagement. So far we have a few different tools, right? We have the tool by picking our standard. You have the tool that, the case study tool to help you. You have chapter 7, and by then you should have a general sense of kind of what you're doing. And so let me give you two different options for this assignment in terms of how you go about thinking about UDL assessments. The first, and with both, always start with the standard in the middle. And then you have your choice. You can discuss or create or talk about assessment 1 that clearly represents multiple means of representation. Maybe you'll think of another different assessment idea where there's multiple means of engagement. And maybe you'll think of a third assessment idea where there's multiple means of action and expression. So this is where you would actually develop 3 different assessment ideas, each one based on a different UDL principle. Or you can also do this, where you select the same thing, a Maryland Common Core standard, and where you use the same basic assessment idea, notice assessment 1, assessment 1, assessment 1, but within each assessment, which is the same assessment, you are providing multiple means of action expression, multiple means of representation, and multiple means of engagement. And so again, you would be taking the same assessment idea for each one, but you would incorporate one of the different UDL principles for each. When I tell you here about developing assessments, a couple of things you should know is that I want you to provide as much detail as possible. You do not actually have to create the assessment, but you should describe it enough to understand what the students would have to do and or how they would engage with it. Images are always a good idea if possible. And so the idea is that no, I'm not asking you to actually create the worksheet that they would have to do themselves, or create the project or create the directions to the project that they would do. But for example, I would want you to give me as much detail as possible so that if they were ending a unit on the Revolutionary War, that you would be providing me the type of information so that I know what the students would have to do, and then again, how you're accounting for these UDL principles along the way. So now the question is, how do you go about showing this? So the first is that you can use something like this. In Microsoft Word, for example, there are a number of different tools that you can simply create a graphic organizer. And this is just one example. And if you're in Microsoft Word and you go to Insert and Smart Art, there are a number of different graphics that you can use that would help organize your ideas in terms of the 3 different UDL principles. So you can do this in Microsoft Word. You can also do this in PowerPoint. When you go to New Slide, again, you're looking at just inserting Smart Art. This helps provide you with some way of organizing. The other option that you can do is there are 2 different web-based tools. The first one is called Popplet. And Popplet is really fun. It is a web-based graphic organizer. In this case, you can just double-click anywhere and you can put in your standard. And then you use these things to put in, number 1, and you can change colors. You can put over here, this could be number 2, and obviously I'm going very quickly because I think you'll get the idea once you go on there and play. And this could be number 3, and you can insert images, you can insert videos. So whatever you think would best represent how you envision these assessments working out, it's completely up to you. So again, you can go in here, and if you want to insert an image, you can just click on, if you find something that you have, or you can insert from wherever, and you get the general idea of what we're doing here. Okay, so this is Popplet. Another tool that I have used on occasion is called Bubble Us, which is something very similar. You will have to sign up for all of these. They are free. But this is also a tool, an online brainstorming tool that I really like. This is not, I don't think, as graphic as Poplet, but the same idea here. If you were going to say, if you were going to write what your assessment is, and then you can tab over and put in multiple means of representation, or maybe you want to put then multiple means of engagement. And over here, you could put in you get the idea. Okay, so this is Bubble Us. So you have these three options. You have Bubble Us, you have Poplet, or you can just do something with Microsoft Word and insert text. So I know this is a lot to think about because I just talked for a good 10 minutes, but hopefully this provides you with some information that is helpful. I wish you luck. Please, please, please contact me if you have any questions. If you can get it in by Monday night, then we can talk about it in class on Tuesday. Do the best you can. Again, the main goal is to think about assessments and think specifically about ways to incorporate the UDL principles in those assessments. In those assessments. All right, guys, have a great night, have a great weekend, and I will see you on Tuesday.